Climate change is the existential threat of our time. We see it everywhere: wildfires, hurricanes, droughts. To stop climate chaos, Food and Water Watch is fighting on several related fronts, starting with the battle to ban fracking. Our victories are many. The reason for our success is simple. We organize people to fight back against the corporations that put profit over human life. We're proud that, together with allies, we won a battle to require the LA Department of Water and Power, the nation's largest public utility, to provide 100% renewable energy by 2035. We're pushing California and the country forward in the climate fight. And we finally banned fracking in the Delaware River Basin, protecting drinking water for more than 15 million people, 5% of our nation's population. In fact, it's never been clearer that the fight for our climate encompasses the fights for our food and our water. Climate chaos threatens it all. Our fights are connected, our results are real, but there's more for us to do. Food and Water Watch is fighting to end industrial agriculture's destructive stranglehold on our food. And we're fighting to break the web of factory farms that poison our land, air, and water. We fight in communities across the country, in the halls of power, in the media, and in the courts. This year, we sued industrial meat giant Smithfield for violating consumer protection law by lying for profit. If the court agrees with us, it could order Smithfield to retract its lies and pay a penalty for its deceit. We also won a major battle against corporate giant Bayer. Glyphosate, a key ingredient in Roundup, was hurting people, and Bayer was using its power to influence the EPA. We fought back for years. Due in part to our work, Bayer is taking glyphosate out of its consumer products. Our supporters make victories like this for our climate, for our food, and for our water possible. Water is a human right. But the infrastructure we rely on for safe, clean water is crumbling, and corporations are scrambling to take over public water. That's why, this summer, we urged congressional leaders to stop any infrastructure proposals that would pave the way for water privatization. We warned that the so-called bipartisan Senate framework would promote a slew of activities that would allow a Wall Street takeover of public water. We're still watching Congress, and we will stop privatization. And we're also fighting for passage of the groundbreaking Water Affordability, Transparency, Equity, and Reliability, or WATER Act, a huge step forward in protecting our critical water resources and the health of our communities. Giant corporations are fighting to control our aging water systems. It's up to us to stop them, and together, we'll do just that. With more than 1.1 million supporters, including you, Food and Water Watch is fighting on 3 related and inseparable fronts: food, water, and climate, to win a safe, livable future for everyone.
Good evening, everyone, and good afternoon to everyone joining us from the West Coast. Welcome to Food and Water Watch's annual benefit. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. I am Tamara Tripp, our Managing Director of Philanthropy here at Food and Water Watch, and I'll be your host for this evening. So now, before we begin, I just want to thank everyone who participated in the conference earlier today. I sat in on several sessions myself, and I can tell you that even after 4 years here, I learned so much. And you know what? Food and Water Watch has accomplished a lot in the past year. And it's only thanks to the generous support of all of you here with us. So thank you. For those of you who are just joining us now for the benefit, welcome. You're in time for the party. I'm so excited to see you all here. And I'd love it if you took a moment to just tell us where you're joining us from in the chat. I see that we've had lots of activity, so we're just so excited to see everyone here. So without further ado, let's get to the reason why we're all here, to celebrate Food and Water Watch, but most importantly, all of you here tonight who make absolutely everything we do possible. We have two incredible people who are joining us to kick things off. First up, we have Winona Howder, Food and Water Watch's founder and executive director. Then we have a really special message from our friend, Mark Ruffalo. As many of you know, he's an incredibly talented Emmy award-winning actor and 3-time Academy Award nominee. But you know what? He's also a dedicated environmental activist. So let's hear what they have to say. Winona?
Great day. Joining together for occasions like the conference is so important. Hearing each other, seeing each other, strategizing together. It's an act of solidarity. It's an act of hope, which we so desperately need during these very difficult times. The economic interests who oppose our mission, along with the corrupt politicians who are doing their dirty work, they want to divide and isolate us, but we're not going to let them. We are uniting and mobilizing people to hold their elected officials accountable. We're bringing large numbers of people into the fight. We're speaking truth to power. We're demanding that people and the environment be put before corporate profits. We're building the political power to win. And it's that organizing-centric strategy that's allowed us to rack up so many wins over the last 16 years. And that's how we're going to keep them coming, too. And that's what we've been discussing today. I want to really thank everyone who's participated and all of the extraordinary speakers. It's been so inspirational. It is incredible how many passionate and committed people we have in this movement. I especially want to thank the wonderful Amy Goodman, who we will be seeing more of shortly. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We have a lot of fantastic things ahead in the next hour. It's time to celebrate. It's time to learn from one another. It's time to push our movement forward. From the dedicated staff at Food and Water Watch, I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank you for all you do. I want to thank you for living, fighting like you live here. Let's begin.
Hey everyone. Thanks to Winona and my friends at Food and Water Watch for inviting me to be part of this special event. I'm here in Budapest where I'm shooting. Like all of you, I can think of many reasons to support Food and Water Watch. I personally started working with Food and Water Watch in 2010 in the campaign to ban fracking in New York State. Like many other big fights that Food and Water Watch takes on, this one was that we were told we couldn't win, but we proved all the naysayers wrong. Through dedicated organizing and building one of the biggest coalitions in New York in state history, we won against all odds. We banned fracking in New York and sent shockwaves across the country and across the world. And without Food and Water Watch and your support, Winona, that would have never happened. You guys are one of the few organizations that take on the big fights, even when you know you might not win, with tenacity and strategies to keep us winning. And you guys are team players. You work with other organizations and grassroots activists in a way that uplifts and empowers our movement. Whether it's the big battles against industrial agriculture and factory farms, taking on the frackers and fossil fuel industry on climate change, or working to keep the water turned on in millions of people's homes during a pandemic. You guys, Food and Water Watch, are always on the front lines. Your support is critical to this moment we're living in. You aren't taking any money from corporate donors or foundations. You guys rely on the support of us to keep things going and doing what you're doing. And together we will ban fracking in this country and stop the climate chaos. We'll protect our public water. We will end factory farms. We'll do all of this and more, but only together. So by coming here together during tonight's event, proving the theory of change that has made Food and Water Watch so effective over the last 16 years. When we organize and we keep pushing and we make people uncomfortable, we win. So thank you, all of you, for making a difference, for being here tonight and supporting this important work. It gets shit done. And thanks to all the determined and dedicated organizers at Food and Water Watch. You guys are the best. Work your hearts out, who work every day, all day long, hard work. And thank you so much for all the grassroots allies and activists working alongside Food and Water Watch that are part of this. You are an inspiration to us all. I love you. Bye for now. This is what we're protecting. Lots of love. I need my glasses. Take care.
Mark, that's right. Only together will we do this. So thank you, Winona. Thank you, Mark. Mark, you're in Budapest. That's amazing. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. So before I introduce our next few speakers, I want to tell you about some exciting news. A few of our generous donors have come together and decided to match dollar for dollar any gifts that are made to Food and Water Watch during tonight's event. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a donate button. You can press it at any time during the event and your gift will be matched. I want to thank so very much from the bottom of our heart our match sponsors and thank all of you who are ready and able to support Food and Water Watch with a gift tonight. So now I'm excited to welcome Congressman Jamie Raskin, a leader in the fight to protect our climate. Then we'll hear from Ed Begley Jr., an actor and environmentalist. And finally, our very own Eric Weltman, a senior organizer on our New York team. Let's get to it.
Jamie Raskin coming at you from Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District. Hello to all my friends at Food and Water Watch in Maryland and across the country. I know you've got 1 million supporters for the vital work that you do. And I'm delighted to be with you and to salute you for pushing for the bold, progressive changes that we need in order to address the civilizational emergency of climate change. So thank you for struggling hard on the front lines of this struggle. I love your slogan, fight like you live here, because all of us do. And we have to all remember that we're fighting for our native habitat on Earth when we struggle to wrestle the fossil fuel monsters to the ground and demand the policy changes that will allow humanity to survive. The fossil fuel industry has cost us precious time with their propaganda and disinformation over the decades, despite the fact that they knew that the greenhouse gas emissions and the carbon emissions were wrecking our climate and our opportunities for our children and grandchildren and future generations to thrive on this planet. They continued nonetheless and covered it all up. So I want to thank Food and Water Watch, which I've worked with from my days back in Annapolis. Maryland became the 3rd state in the country to ban fracking. I want to thank Food and Water Watch for all of the great work that you did on that. And I remember fondly our days struggling together for the fracking ban. I want to thank you for working with me in Congress to try to end subsidies to the fossil fuel and polluting energy systems, to the carbon barons who have controlled our energy policy for way too long. As chairman of the Oversight Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, I've been working to reform the operations of FERC, which has been a handmaiden for way too long to the fossil fuel industry. And we are working to vindicate and guarantee the rights of property owners across the country. I'm proud to support the Farm System Reform Act to put factory farms in check. And generally, I'm delighted to be working with all of you on guaranteeing access to clean water and clean air for all of our people and all of our communities, many of which have been discriminated against because of racism and indifference to the plight of poorer people. So I want to thank Food and Water Watch and all of your great organizers and your volunteers and your community partners. I want to congratulate you on this first exciting virtual conference. I hope we can get through the nightmare of COVID-19 and the criminal negligence and incompetence of the last 4 years under Donald Trump to solve this crisis once and for all, and to get past the dangerous anti-scientific games that have been played by politicians across the country. So thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for making me part of your celebration. Hang tough and stay strong, everybody. All best.
Quigley Jr., big fan of Food and Water Watch since their inception in 2005, when some good friends from Public Citizen got together and formed this wonderful organization. Been doing great work ever since. I've been involved in environmental matters since 1970. That's when I started recycling. I started composting. I started riding my bike, taking public transportation, became a vegetarian. All that stuff I knew would be good for the environment. It was also very inexpensive. It was good for my pocketbook. It made economic sense to do it back then in 1970 as it does today. And I know that electric vehicles work. I've been driving them since 1970. I know that solar works. It's been heating my water and powering my home, heating my water since 85, powering my home since 1990. I know that wind power works. I've had a wind turbine as part of a wind farm since 1985. So I know these things work, and Food and Water Watch does. We know there are alternatives. We've been talking about climate change for quite a while, and now here it is. We see the devastating effects all the time. You know, the floods in Europe, historic fires in the Western United States, and fossil fuels are the biggest contributor to climate change, of course. As President Biden has said, you know, climate change is the existential threat of our time. So we have to hold him to his word and make sure he does what is needed, what has to be done. It's time for historic action, and Food and Water Watch is poised to make those kinds of changes. I know they're going to keep up the fight. They don't compromise. They don't give up. And so congratulations on your first conference. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there. One of the most powerful things about this organization is the community standing with you, and they do, as you know. Over the years I've been involved, I've seen fellow Food and Water Watch members, some of the most active, passionate people out there working to protect the environment, to protect our communities. I applaud all of you who took part in today's sessions and the conference, and are now even more prepared than ever to keep up this fight. Food and Water Watch is all in on fighting for a livable climate. So am I, and I hope you are too. Let's keep up the fight, and let's do it together.
My name is Eric Weltman, organizer with Food and Water Watch. I'm in Brooklyn, where I live and work, and where there's a proposal to expand a frack gas power plant that we are working to shut down. And we know that fracking is a major contributor to climate change, and is fueling the wildfires, storms, and heat waves that are devastating our community's environment. That's why we're fighting to ban fracking now. One of our most recent wins came because of our years-long fight against fracking in the Delaware River Basin, a region covering 4 states that supplies water for millions of people. And years of work to organize, mobilize communities, together with our coalition allies, we generated more than 100,000 petitions, tens of thousands of public comments, and thousands upon thousands of calls, text messages to the decision makers, the governors charged with protecting the basin. And we showed up, virtually and in person, in huge numbers at rallies and protests and the halls of power. Our message: only a ban on fracking would protect our water, communities, and environment, and our unrelenting pressure won. The 4 governors from the states in the basin voted to protect their residents from fracking. It was a major win, and we're thankful to all our members and allies, to you, many of whom are here tonight. Together, we put in countless hours of work, and we didn't give up the fight. We knew that together we would win, and we did. And now, folks, we move forward together to take the next step. While we know that the Delaware River Basin is safe because of our work that you made possible, we want to do more. We need to do more. While we want a permanent fracking ban in the Delaware River Basin, it's essential that the region is protected from other harmful impacts of fracking. Beyond that, it's time for a national ban on fracking everywhere. That includes stopping projects like the one here in Brooklyn. Food and Water Watch is in this fight for the long haul. That's the kind of long-term vision our members, folks like you, expect from us. That's why we win, not just in the short term, but in the long fight to protect our climate for generations to come. Thank you.
As Eric just said, we won an important victory in the Delaware River Basin. But the work doesn't stop there. We all know that climate change is one of the biggest challenges of our time. And that's why our organizers are working alongside communities across the country in places like California, Pennsylvania, Florida, New York, and elsewhere. I have to say, I finally did see the chat and where folks are joining us from, and we have folks from all those states and so many more. Thank you again all for being here. But we are doing this to fight against fossil fuel industry and win victories like these that will protect our planet for us and for future generations. So if you want to support our work tonight for a livable climate, you can donate tonight. And thanks to our match, your gift will be doubled. Wait a minute. Hold on. I am getting a chat just now from my team. And wow, we have some really exciting news. In the last few minutes, we just received a $10,000 gift. And I can't even tell you how exciting this is. Huge thank you to this very, very special supporter. Thank you. You made my evening. But seriously though, if you could all just join in, it'll make my night even happier. So you can just click on the donate button. There are even more donations coming in already. So thank you all for your generosity. So now we turn it to a very special part of the evening where we celebrate and we thank our leaders for their contributions to the movement. This year, we are so pleased to award Amy Goodman with our annual honoree award. Many of you heard from her earlier today during our welcome session at the conference, and I'm excited that we'll get to hear from her again in just a moment. But first, I want to introduce Craig Maralise to tell us a little bit more about Amy's achievements, and then we'll hear from Amy herself. After that, we've prepared a very special video tribute to 3 of our incredible volunteer leaders who have gone truly above and beyond. As you may have learned in one of today's sessions, we are building up our volunteer network, and these 3 volunteers have stepped up and taken on leadership roles. We're so grateful to all of you. Thank you. And then to help us celebrate, we're going to have a special musical performance from musician Max Frost. I urge you to sing along. So Craig, let's kick it off.
Hello, everyone. My name is Craig Maralise. I'm a member of the Food and Water Watch Board, chair of the Advisory Council, and I'm so glad to be with you here tonight. I hope you all had a chance to hear Amy Goodman's talk earlier this afternoon. It's now my pleasure to welcome her back because Amy is this year's Food and Water Watch honoree. I'm thrilled to congratulate her for receiving this award and acknowledge her many important achievements. As some of you may know, Amy is the host and executive producer of Democracy Now!, a daily, global, independent news program that reaches millions, covering the world's most important stories. Democracy Now! Shares those stories of people organizing like us on the front lines of our planet's most urgent issues. Through Democracy Now!, Amy and her team have built a platform that challenges the conventional corporate media and gives voice to people and movements who are fighting for change and a better future. Amy is the true embodiment of our Food and Water Watch motto, fight like you live here. So congratulations, Amy. Our deepest gratitude for the good work that you've been doing and continue to do every day to help us win. Thank you.
Thank you so much, labor organizer extraordinaire that you are. This means so much, and I accept this on behalf of everyone at Democracy Now! As Food and Water Watch says, fight like you live here. If the pandemic has taught us anything, and this is such a beautiful award, I thank you so much. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it is that we are all interconnected all over the planet. If someone is sick anywhere, we are all vulnerable. And so we must all protect each other. The food we eat, the land we live on, the air we breathe must all be protected. And it's not going to happen if we have a corporate press that is brought to you by the very corporations that are threatening the planet, which is why independent media is so important. I don't think it's any accident in this 25th anniversary of Democracy Now! That it has grown so much. We were only supposed to be around for what, like 9 months to cover the election of 1996. There was more demand after the election than before because of our commitment to bring out the voices of people at the grassroots, the heroes and heroines who work every day in their community to make it a safer place for everyone. We went from 9 stations 25 years ago to over 1,500 stations on PBS stations, NPR stations, community radio stations, public access stations, and TV and radio stations all over the globe and online at democracynow.org and on websites everywhere. It's because of the hunger for independent voices. The vast majority of people in the world are good, they care, they want to share and save this planet. And it's up to us to bring out those voices. Not hard to find, because in the corporate media, you've got this minority elite, and I'm not talking about people of color. But the vast majority of people, those are the voices that are authentic, that are real, young and old, of every ethnicity, all over the planet. And we have to provide that forum for people to speak for themselves. I thank you so much for your interest in Democracy Now! And in covering the activists on the ground. That's what gives us the most hope. The people who are doing something about the issues that are plaguing this planet. That's what's hopeful. Yes, Democracy Now! Is independent, international, investigative news hour. It's grassroots and it's global. And we mean what we say. Democracy Now! Not then, not whenever, but now. Thank you so much.
I finally am a part of a team of people who's making a big difference. It felt impossible to take on my own. But finally joining a group of people where together we can combine our ideas and our willpower and our efforts and our desire to change things, I feel like we actually can. Like, we can make a difference.
Being able to see us taking on some initiatives and then a result coming out from them at the end is incredibly empowering as a volunteer.
During the Trump era, I really started getting into activism, and I kind of gravitated towards Food and Water Watch because I felt like the campaigns that they were organizing around really aligned with what I wanted to see happen in the world.
I had never been in a lobby meeting, and now I've been in several. I didn't even know who my legislators were. I didn't know where I fit into the hierarchy of my local politics. I didn't know why local politics mattered. I didn't honestly think they probably did. And that has all 180 flip-flopped for me since joining Food and Water Watch.
Here in Tampa, if people hadn't heard, we had our city council take forward and pass a resolution on clean, renewable energy by 2035. And it was, it's something a lot of other cities have worked on, but I think probably most people are familiar with some of the political dynamics here in Florida. So for us to accomplish something like that in a state like this, I think is really huge.
The victory I'm most proud of is we stopped the women's pipeline 3 times. That's just crazy, the tenacity of these fossil fuel corporations. But we've stopped them. You know, we stopped multi-billion-dollar projects with just volunteer effort. It's been kind of amazing.
I think it's groups like this. When you're on your own looking at these big issues, it feels like an insurmountable mountain, something that you just can't defeat. But when you're with a collective group of people who have the same passion and desire to push forward and try to do the impossible, I mean, that's where hope comes in.
It's easy to feel a little discouraged sometimes when things perhaps aren't happening as quickly as we know they really need to. I think what's been encouraging and has given me hope is the diversity of partners that we're pulling in on this topic.
I just love how they hook up with other groups and make great coalitions with other activist groups.
It's been an amazing ride. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm just excited about what we're going to achieve next.
It's been a lot of fun, I have to say.
Everyone's participation is important. We all bring different strengths and can support the movement in different ways. I encourage everyone to get involved in whatever capacity you can.
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be here tonight on behalf of Food and Water Watch, and I'm honored and grateful to be here. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Max Frost. I'm an artist and a singer-songwriter and a producer from Austin, Texas. Like all of you guys, I care about this planet. I'm watching what's happening with the past few weeks with the wildfires, with the hurricanes, and all the other extreme weather that's clearly resulting from climate change. And it's made it clear that we're running out of time and that this has never been more urgent. That's why I'm so thankful to you guys for being here tonight and for being a part of this. As you know, the time to act is now, and I feel like we're doing just that. So we're in the right place at the right time, and we have a chance to make a difference. Food and Water Watch, as you guys know, is at the forefront of these issues, and they're speaking up loudly to demand that we end using fossil fuels and everything else that's contributing to this problem. And we can all contribute to that in different ways. And the way that I hope that I can make a small imprint today is being a part of this and using music as a form of activism. Obviously in the past, it was a bigger form of activism than I feel like it has been recently. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to play a Joni Mitchell song called Big Yellow Taxi that I'm sure you're familiar with. That especially in the context of tonight, it kind of lyrically hit me in a different way. So hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks again so much for having me. Adios. They paid paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging house bar. Oh, it always seemed to go, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. They paid paradise, put up a parking lot. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum now. And they charged the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. In paradise, put up a parking lot. Hey, farmer, put away my DDT now. In response on my apples, leave me
paradise, put up a parking lot. They pay paradise to put up a parking lot. A late night's night, I heard the screen door slam down. And a big yellow taxi took away my old man. And it always seemed to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone. They pay paradise, put up a parking lot. They pay paradise, put up a parking lot. They pay paradise, put up a parking lot.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I was doing a little singing. I think they put me on mute so you couldn't hear me. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Craig. And thank you to the many of you here at Food and Water Watch, the volunteers, our supporters, everyone who's joining us tonight. Thank you. And I don't know about you, but I love Joni Mitchell and I love that song. So thank you, Max. We can't say it enough. Our members mean so much to us at Food and Water Watch. We truly could not do it without you, and everyone can contribute in different ways. Whether you volunteer, you sign a petition, or you call your member of Congress, everything you do helps, including donating to support. So next up, we're going to hear from Congresswoman Nanette Barragan, an powerful advocate fighting climate change who has led the way in decarbonizing our nation's ports, and followed by Amanda Starbuck, our Director of Research, and Tara Heinzen, our Legal Director, to tell us more about some important victories.
This is Congresswoman Nanette Barragan, representing California's 44th District. I'm proud to work closely with Food and Water Watch in Congress to fight against the climate crisis and for environmental justice. My first opportunity to work with Food and Water Watch was as a councilwoman in Hermosa Beach, fighting against oil drilling into the Santa Monica Bay. Although we won that fight, I saw firsthand the difference in political power and resources residents of Hermosa Beach had to defeat big oil compared to economically disadvantaged communities and communities of color I now represent in Congress. In Wilmington, we have urban oil drilling right next to homes and schools. Our communities also suffer from diesel pollution because we are surrounded by 3 freeways and the Port of Los Angeles. This isn't just my district. These are impacts from fossil fuels we see all around the country, frequently in economically disadvantaged communities and communities of color. Food and Water Watch, you have staff on the ground working with community members to listen and learn about what matters to them. I truly appreciate how you fight to center the voices of the community and help community members reclaim their political power. That's democracy in action. That's why I'm working with Food and Water Watch to enact policies that put people first, including reducing air pollution from our ports, ending billions in fossil fuel subsidies, fighting for 100% clean energy, and fighting against new fossil fuel infrastructure. Thank you to everyone here who took part in today's conference. Your voices matter. You are making a difference. I encourage each and every one of you to continue fighting for the health of people and our planet.
Amanda Starbuck, Research Director at Food and Water Watch, joining you from my community garden in Arlington, Virginia. So there's a common thread that weaves through our work here at Food and Water Watch, and that is that science matters. Corporations spend millions of dollars trying to bury or to twist science that threatens their bottom line. And they even sway politicians and regulators to put corporate profit ahead of public health and safety. Now, this can seem like a hopeless battle, going up against the richest and most powerful corporations and political interests, but we know that we can win. And if you don't believe us, just ask Monsanto. Monsanto has worked for decades to try to make their herbicide glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, appear harmless. They say it's as safe as table salt, and they have peddled it to farmers and gardeners and groundskeepers across the country. But the scientific evidence against glyphosate is mounting. It is tied to a whole host of health problems, everything from cancer to hormonal disruption, as well as ecological damage. It even threatens our precious pollinators. So in 2015, when the World Health Organization determined that glyphosate is likely to cause cancer, Monsanto went on the anti-science attack. But we saw through the smokescreen, and we worked hard to expose their dirty tactics. Everything from buying scientists to ghostwriting papers to colluding with officials at the Environmental Protection Agency. And we had a small victory recently. Bayer, who is now the parent company of Monsanto, announced they will no longer be selling herbicides containing the active ingredient glyphosate at home and garden centers. This is an important but small victory, but our work is not done. We will not stop until glyphosate is banned in all uses on and off the farm. But this is just one example of how long-term organizing really works. And it's a small step towards our vision, which is a food and farming system that works for everybody. We believe that animals should not be confined on factory farms, but go back to the pasture and be integrated into crop and livestock systems. We believe that organic and regenerative practices should be the norm and not the exception, and that chemical inputs shouldn't be used in order to make up for ecologically unsound practices. We also want to support and lift up the farmers who have been historically disadvantaged from our system, including Black and Indigenous, female farmers, and beginning farmers. And we know that together we can win. With you by our side, we can have a livable climate, safe drinking water, and safe and healthy food. And we know that in the end, science does matter, and science will win.
I'm Tara Heinzen, Food and Water Watch's legal director, and I'm here this evening to share another incredible victory that we just won against factory farms. As some of you heard in a conference session earlier today, our legal team has been fighting in the courts to hold the Environmental Protection Agency accountable for failing to regulate water pollution from factory farms. The Federal Clean Water Act says factory farms' pollution must be regulated and monitored through strong water discharge permits. But EPA has given this industry a pass for decades. As Amanda just said, we know science matters, and we know the harm this pollution causes to nearby communities. So when EPA issued a statewide permit in Idaho that didn't require pollution monitoring, we sued in federal court. And just 2 weeks ago, we won. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals vacated EPA's illegal permit and held that factory farm permits, like all other water polluter permits, must contain monitoring. The court agreed that we have no way of knowing if factory farms are complying with the law or of holding them accountable without this monitoring. This is a huge win with nationwide implications, and we're going to keep fighting in the courts to stop factory farm pollution. Thank you all so much for being here this evening and for the support that makes it possible for us to do this work.
It's amazing to see the momentum continuing to build. And as Amanda and Tara just said, and some of our guests have mentioned, some of our victories are years in the making, but it's worth it. We know that a vision for a healthier, more sustainable future is possible. And that with the perseverance and continued pressure on elected officials, government agencies, and big corporations, we can win. We have, and we will continue to do so. And it's your support that makes it possible. So again, if you can, I ask you to donate tonight. Your gift will be doubled. And on to that, for our next and final segment this evening, I'm excited to welcome Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, the lead sponsor of the Water Affordability, Transparency, Equity, and Reliability Act, otherwise known as the Water Act, followed by my colleague Mitch Jones coming to us from Baltimore, Maryland to tell us about some critical victories to protect our water.
Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence and I proudly represent Michigan's 14th Congressional District. Thank you. Thank you to the Food and Water Watch for hosting this incredible event. It's exciting to see so many people coming together to take action on these important, life-saving issues. 3 years ago, I became the lead sponsor of the Water Act, and together we have dramatically grown support for this important legislation to more than 90 co-sponsors in the House and the Senate. My bill, the Water Act, is the most comprehensive solution for our nation's water crisis. It has become the guiding star for water investment during congressional infrastructure talks. The Water Act will help our cities fix and strengthen their aging drinking water and wastewater systems, making them ready to face the challenges of the 21st century. I have seen firsthand the harm of the lack of federal investment with devastating floods, water main breaks, and unaffordable water bills in Detroit and cities and towns around the country. It's past time for the federal government to restore its commitment to having safe, clean, and affordable drinking water in America. By passing the Water Act, we can create up to 1 million good jobs and help us to realize the human right to water for our communities across the United States. A pothole is an inconvenience, but water, clean, safe, affordable water is a necessity to life. I am proud to stand with the Food and Water Watch on these issues to protect everyone's access to clean, safe, and affordable water. Again and again, together, we can prove something I deeply believe: nothing can stop engaged residents when they realize their political power and stand together to use it in our democracy. So I thank Food and Water Watch, its dedicated volunteers, and many, many community and coalition partners. Thank you for being here tonight. And I do believe together we will make a difference. Keep leading the fight, and I'll see you soon.
I'm Mitch Jones, Policy Director at Food and Water Watch. As you know, our nation is facing a water crisis. Whether it's droughts in the Southwest, lead pipes in the Midwest and Northeast, or rising rates everywhere. International water companies and their friends on Wall Street are seeking to profit by undermining the human right to water. In fact, just in the past year, they've created a fund to speculate on the price of water in California. This is down to the failed leadership of Congress. Since 1977, the federal support for water has decreased 82%. That's an 82% decline in the federal funding of our water utilities since 1977. That's why Food and Water Watch partnered with allies in Congress to draft and introduce the Water Affordability, Transparency, Equity, and Reliability Act, or the Water Act. The Water Act would provide $35 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars a year for our local water utilities. It would help get lead pipes out of homes and schools and provide equitable funding to communities across the country. What's more, it will provide up to 1 million new, well-paying jobs. You see, at Food and Water Watch, we believe instead of allowing private water companies to take over our water utilities, the federal government needs to fund our local governments so that they can provide safe and affordable water for everyone. Now, we're not just working in Congress. Earlier this year, we helped lead a campaign in Edison, New Jersey that would prohibit their water system from ever being privatized. They're the third city to do that. Here in Baltimore, we are leading the way in protecting the human right to water. A few years ago, we partnered with State Senator Mary Washington to introduce state legislation that will protect people from losing their homes or their places of worship for the inability to pay their water bills. Then, we passed a citywide referendum to change the city's charter to prohibit the privatization of Baltimore's water utilities. And we passed an ordinance through the City Council to create a water affordability program to assure that everyone can have affordable water here in Baltimore. Now, this is the power of Food and Water Watch's approach to organizing, and it's an approach that you make possible. We have a clear and compelling vision for the future of water in our country. And with your help, we will make that vision a reality.
You know, I feel like we can't say it enough. Water is a human right. And that's why Food and Water Watch is dedicated to ensuring that everyone has access to clean, affordable water. So I want to thank everyone here tonight. I have to say, I wasn't going to do this again. Truly, I really wasn't. First of all, I want to say that we actually have gotten a number of really great gifts, a wonderful $5,000 gift, $1,000, a bunch of $500 gifts. I'm super excited. We've actually raised, for this event, we've raised a little over $118,000 for Food and Water Watch, for our food, for our water, our climate. Super amazing. Truly, I really wasn't going to ask again, but our goal for this event is $125,000, and we're really close. So if you can make a gift, or you know what, text a friend and ask them to make a gift. We're so grateful. And no matter what, we're so grateful for everything. So this, it directly supports our work in DC and in communities across the country to stop water privatization, to fight factory farms, and protect our climate. And we can't thank you all enough, but I'm gonna try. I wanna thank everyone who donated tonight as part of the match. I wanna thank everyone who joined us this evening, who joined us earlier in the day for the conference. I wanna thank our members, our volunteers who are dedicated to this shared mission. I know that none of us could be here right now. It takes energy, it takes effort, it takes resources. It's hard work and it's heart work. But we're here because we've seen that when we come together as a community, it's the power of the people that can make the meaningful, transformational change that we all need. Thank you for choosing to stand with Food and Water Watch tonight to fight like we live here. We're excited to keep working with you tomorrow. Have a great, great night. Thank you, everyone.